Je déclare.
I will call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 42 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food. I will start with a few reminders. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. Just so you are aware, the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee.
Or taking of photos of your screen are not permitted, colleagues. To our witnesses, we have a couple joining us online. If you could direct your answers and the questions through the chair. And of course, those who need translation, there's an ability to toggle between English and French. Of course, Mr. Charbois, you're here. You can be able to, I know you're bilingual, but you can also use this if you need that. Colleagues, pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Monday, November 21st, 2022, the committee is resuming its study of the food price inflation. I would now like to welcome our witnesses for this first one-hour panel. With us today from the Agri-Food Analytics Lab, Sylvain Charbois, who is the Director of Agri-Food Analytics and Professor at Dalhousie University. Mr. Charbois, welcome. From Loblaw Companies Limited, Jodat Hussain, who is the Senior Vice President, Retail Finance. Welcome, Mr. Hussain. And joining us virtually with the Retail Council of Canada, Carl Littler, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs. Colleagues, you know the drill. We'll have 5 minutes for opening remarks, and then we will turn to questions. I'm going to start with Mr. Charbois in the room. You have up to 5 minutes, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I would like to thank the committee for inviting me again for this important discussion on food affordability. As food prices rise, many are quick to blame grocers for profiteering and taking advantage of consumers. The notion of profiteering has emerged as one of the most talked about issues in the last few months. In one of our recent reports, we used publicly available data to look at gross profit for each of the three big Canadian grocers, Empire, Sobeys, Metro, and Loblaws. We calculated their respective best and average performances for the last 6 years. We failed to see any evidence of profiteering on all accounts. But this doesn't mean changes are unnecessary. Grocers are incredibly diversified and sell cosmetics, drugs, clothing. Margins are different for these verticals. And, of course, the ethics and social responsibilities of selling bananas or eggs are quite different than when selling lipstick. Grocers have started to report their food sales separately from their non-food operations. Unlike selling T-shirts or perfume, selling food, a necessity of life, is inherently ethical, and the stakes are very different. That needs to continue. Still, some higher prices remain difficult to explain as we remain concerned about some verticals. Meat and bakery are good examples. The Competition Bureau has constantly failed the Canadian public by not providing forceful support to lawmakers in Canada when it simply endorses acquisitions and oversees investigations with little or no vigor. The bread price scandal is a good example. After 7 years, the investigation is still ongoing. We've also seen investigation into meat and salmon, neither of which have provided definitive results. Our nation has seen consumer trust being compromised, which is spilling over into our relationship with grocers due to the Competition Bureau's baggage, that is, the awkward, unfinished business it has with many files. Canadian consumers feel grossly unprotected. In the U.S., things are very different. Kroger is currently trying to acquire Albertsons for almost $25 billion, which would make Kroger the second largest grocer in America. Kroger could be asked to let go of almost 400 stores, creating a rival to the new grocer. This would never happen in Canada. When Provigo was acquired by Loblaws in 1998, or Metro acquired A&P in 2005, or even Sobeys buying Safeway out west in 2013, barely anyone raised an eyebrow during the proceedings. Over the years, we've seen many independent grocers disappear as a result. Consumers everywhere deserve more retail options. Le code de conduite.
A code of conduct is needed. Many Canadians are unaware that in the food industry, suppliers must pay grocers in order to do business. The fees are justified by merchandising costs, shelf space, the sort of thing that everyone expects. But in recent years, matters have changed. Companies such as Loblaw, Walmart, and Metro are abusing the system, and some fees have been imposed too quickly, casually, and unilaterally. It is now more difficult for independent processors and grocers to compete in Canada. A code of conduct for grocers will aim to change the culture of an industry where vertical coordination and collaboration barely exist. It's also about tackling a broken business model. A code could neutralize power relations within the chain, stabilize retail prices, focus on value and innovation for consumers, improve the security of the domestic food supply, and encourage investment in the agri-food sector. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Charlebois. And now we will hear from Mr. Hussain. You have 5 minutes.
Bonjour, good afternoon. I'm Jorat Hussain, Senior Vice President of Retail Finance at Loblaw. I want to thank the honorable members for your invitation. Inflation has affected all countries and sectors, particularly food. While Canada has some of the lowest food inflation in the G7, we know that is little comfort to customers paying 10% more for essentials. I'm pleased to shed light on Loblaw's actions to reduce the impact of food inflation and to ensure that our prices do not rise faster than our supplier costs. Like all grocers, Loblaw is essentially a food distributor. We buy goods from suppliers and then sell them to customers. We are dependent on what suppliers charge us when we set our retail prices. Fundamentally, grocery prices are up because the costs of products that grocers buy from suppliers have gone up. In a normal year, many suppliers ask us to pay more for their products. But as the pandemic and inflation set in, supplier cost requests skyrocketed. 2020 was a record high, 2021 was higher, and 2022 hit unprecedented levels. Our experts review these cost requests to evaluate if they are justified in light of market conditions. We negotiate the best supplier costs because that allows our stores to have the best prices. Through these negotiations, we pushed back about $500 million of added costs this year. As worldwide inputs of key commodities like sugar, flour, oil, and labor, fuel have risen substantially, our suppliers have faced real pressures. Therefore, many cost increases have been substantiated, approved, and reflected in our shelf prices. Some negotiations, however, are tougher. For example, when we couldn't agree to a fair cost increase on potato chips, our suppliers stopped shipping products to us and our millions of customers. For weeks, most of our chip aisle was empty, interrupting our business and impacting our customers. But that shows we take our job seriously, doing what's necessary to keep prices fair. It is important to point out that grocers operate at very low profit margins, less than 4 cents for every dollar we sell. This is dramatically less than other Canadian sectors, including the suppliers of the products we sell. So when the costs we pay go up, generally our prices to customers have to go up too. But we have worked hard to protect food prices. The best way to judge us is to look at our food gross margin, the gap between what suppliers charge us and what we charge customers. Since inflation took off last year, that margin has not increased. This gives us confidence to say Loblaw's prices are not growing faster than costs, and we are not taking advantage of inflation to drive profit. We operate in a very competitive industry. It includes strong national and regional grocers, Global giants like Walmart, Costco, and Amazon, who represent a third of the market, and smaller independents who are now growing 3 times faster than corporate chains. If the experience, variety, and prices we offer aren't top-notch, customers have hundreds of options to shop elsewhere. We're proud of the value we offer Canadians. We continue to push back on undue costs. We have frozen prices on more than 1,500 no-name products. We're giving out a record number of loyalty points, more than $1 billion, to help cut grocery bills. And we won't stop in these efforts. Around the world, political leaders are asking the same questions you are. Inflation and food prices are up everywhere, but grocery is a complicated industry with many players, so finding good answers will require you to look at retailers, suppliers, and the full global value chain. Here at home, we're doing our best to give our customers the best value possible in spite of inflation. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. We'll now turn to Mr. Littler, I think is how I pronounce it. Over to you.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to first thank the committee for this opportunity today and to express our hope that this study will properly examine the root causes of inflation, its global context, and its many contributing factors. One problem with Canada's lack of modern experience with inflation is that some commentators are rushing to judgment, when we would be best served by looking at the problem in all of its complexities. When it comes to food price inflation, the issue needs to be understood both figuratively and literally from the ground up. The reason the prices have risen sharply on grocery shelves is straightforward. The manufacturers, processors, and wholesalers of food have been raising rates repeatedly and almost across the board. Vendors' own costs are soaring, primarily because prices from farmers, growers, and importers have been increasing at unprecedented rates. And farmers, in turn, have faced massive cost increases for fertilizer, diesel fuel, and feed, among others. We're experiencing a unique confluence of events: war, extreme weather, and soaring fuel prices, piling on top of supply chain disruptions and, in some cases, labor shortages. Some of these factors affect all Canadian industries, but others are quite specific to or more concentrated in food production and distribution than elsewhere. The single biggest identifiable villain is Putin's invasion, striking at the grain and fertilizer exports of two of the world's largest producers, Ukraine and Russia, and driving up global prices for these commodities. Grain is critical for staples like bread, pasta, cereal, and oils, and for the majority of products in the core aisles of grocery stores. And of course, grain also serves as feed for most animals raised for meat or for producing eggs and dairy. Drought and heat have hammered fruits and vegetables producing regions on which Canada most relies, especially in California, but in the Canadian West as well. That impacts not only the fresh produce section, but also canned, frozen, and preserved vegetables and fruits, sauces, juices, and anything in which these are ingredients. You already know the story of dairy and eggs and how the supply management boards have identified rising fuel, feed, and fertilizer costs as the basis for unprecedented price increases. I could also speak to the spiking cost of packaging, of shipping, and of the declining Canadian dollar, which is of increasing importance. This committee is to be commended for looking at some of these root causes, including the recent study on the impact of the Ukrainian invasion and further work on issues related to climate change. But there are those, both in politics and media, who've deliberately sought to link inflation in the public mind to grocers' earnings. So let's touch on that briefly. Grocery is a high volume, low margin industry, the profits from which need to be looked at in percentage terms, not nominal dollars. Inevitably, in an inflationary environment and with a growing population, the dollars are going to increase over time, but it's the percentages that matter. Viewed in that light, grocery earnings of 2%, 3%, and 4% are stable and within historic norms. They're also significantly lower than in most Canadian industries. When compared to big food processing companies, which typically earn profit percentages in the mid to high teens, and indeed lower than the Canadian net farm income average of 5.4%. On the grocer side, such profit growth that there has been mainly derives from pharma, health, and beauty, not from food, and certainly not from food staples, in which profitability is flat. There are some folks for whom any level of profit is suspect ideologically, and I don't suppose I'm going to dissuade them. I would suggest that anyone interested in investment and employment, or who will receive the Canada Pension Plan, has an RRSP, a workplace pension, or education savings plan, should be keenly interested that there be at least some profit from business activity, and reject as absurd the notion that profits in the 2 to 5% range are in any way out of the ordinary. Let's avoid the rush to judgment, look at the whole picture, and factor that into any policies and commentary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Littler. The only thing the clerk asked me to advise you is just to bring up your mic a little bit when we get into the question period, just a little bit between your mouth and your nose, I'm told. So wonderful. Okay, well, we'll start. We'll go to questions. We're going to start with the Conservatives. I believe Ms. Rood and Mr. Barlow are splitting. Ms. Rood, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. I know we've seen prices on the grocery store shelves continue to climb higher and higher. And from what I've been able to garner, produce farmers aren't getting paid more for their produce. And the competition in the market because of grocery store chain dominance is forcing farmers to sell their produce for either ridiculously low margins or even to take a loss just to have the privilege of continuing to sell their goods to grocery giants like Loblaws. Farmers take all the risks, and yet these grocery giants are the ones to take all of the rewards. I've been a strong advocate on a grocery code of conduct, and I do hope to see this come to fruition to tackle some of these issues that we see here today. Mr. Hussain, I have a question for you. Your company has reported record-breaking profits, yet financial data is not available to the public to see if your profits are a product of diversity or if it's part of an increased cost of food. So I'm just wondering if Loblaws tracks its sales in separate categories.
Yes, in our disclosures, we do provide the difference between what our food business is doing in sales and what our drug business is doing in sales. We also provide qualitative disclosure around our segment margins. And that was what I was referring to, is that our food segment margins, which is the food gross margin, has been unchanged and it's been flat since inflation took off.
I was wondering if you can share that with the committee, the figures of the revenues generated by food alone. You can table that with the committee later. I don't need an answer to that right now. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Barlow.
Thank you very much. Mr. Charlebois, you wrote in April that the government was deleting its food inflation database, maybe as many as 25 years of food data. Can you tell me if the government followed through and did wipe out that data from their database?
It did, actually. Yeah, it's as a lab, it's been extremely difficult and frankly frustrating to utilize StatsCan's data over the last several months. It's been very difficult to know exactly whether or not the food inflation data is actually accurate. We have partners at the lab allowing us to better appreciate what's actually is going on. And we've had meetings with StatsCan, but it's been meetings have been challenging, to say the least.
Could they not have maintained that database somehow? You know, what was the reason given? Was this a political decision? You know, obviously, we have record inflation. It just seems with today's technology that's an odd decision to make, to wipe out 25 years worth of food inflation prices, which for you, certainly as a researcher, it would be critical information to have available.
It would. It would. There's lots of practices, reporting practices at StatsCan that really, I think, are questionable. For example, if you just look right now at the data that came out for October numbers, we still don't have the basket of goods for the month of October. We don't know if broccoli went up in October. We're still waiting for that data, and we saw inflation data come out maybe 2-3 weeks ago. So there's these delays that really we wonder why these delays actually exist.
You just released the 2023 food price report. Perfect timing. Thank you for that. And you had mentioned that food prices are going to continue to increase over the next year, maybe 7%, costing the family of four an additional, $1,065 more in groceries. Do you believe that government policies like front-of-pack labeling and increasing carbon taxes are having an impact on the price of food and the cost of groceries in the grocery store shelves?
Well, for the front of packaging labeling policy, it's too early to tell. We still don't have anything right now at the grocery store influencing behavior. But as far as the carbon tax goes, it's actually mentioned in today's report that we're releasing along with the University of Guelph, University of Saskatchewan, and UBC. We are encouraging the government to look into the carbon tax and how it's impacting food affordability in Canada. We're not taking a position for or against the tax, But I think it's important for the government to understand the impact of the tax itself on food affordability over the long term as it gets closer to the $170 a metric ton mark.
Thanks. In a column you wrote a few years ago about carbon tax will drive up the cost of groceries. You referenced in that column that at $50 a ton, the tax could drive up food prices by as much as 3%. Now, we see food prices up more than 10% now. Any idea, have you done some research, what the impact on food prices would be at $170 a ton?
I wish I knew the answer. I think that's the coefficient we need to get to at least for the government to better understand exactly what the impact is going to be. There's been some policies that we've seen in recent years that are honestly unfairly penalizing farmers. Farmers are price takers and they have to absorb the carbon tax. And that's certainly something I've actually testified myself before, I believe, the Finance Committee on Bill C-206, I believe. And my position was very clear. I think it's important to recognize each and every node within the supply chain and how the carbon tax is impacting each and every one of them.
I just have a couple of seconds left, but I think this could be an exponential increase, obviously at 50 or 3%. But farmers are that one group that pays that carbon tax over and over and over again. Fuel, fertilizer, transportation, trucking. Is that fair to say? That
would be fair to say. It is an important hypothesis to recognize.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Thank you, Mr. Charlebois. Now we have Mr. Turnbull for up to 6 minutes.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to all the panelists for being here today. I'm definitely listening intently to your comments and taking all things into consideration. To Mr. Littler's opening remarks, I think we all get that the costs have increased across the agri-food supply chain and that there's good reason for those globally. I guess the thing that struck me is to see Loblaws, Metro, and the other large grocery chains to be claiming these net earnings that are quite sizable. And Mr. Hussain, I think you're sort of giving us some rationale or alternative explanation than what one might assume, which is that there's some profiteering going on. And so I think it's interesting to dig in a little bit deeper there and understand that better. So I should say net earnings, as we all know, just to set it clear, is an entity's income minus all the costs of goods, expenses, depreciation, amortization, interest, and taxes. So we're really talking about net profit, right, for Loblaws as a whole when we're talking about the 266 million prior to the pandemic to, I guess, today around 387 million. That's pretty sizable net earnings given we've gone through a global pandemic and Canadians out there are struggling to pay for necessities, as you said. Mr. Hussain, maybe you can sort of enlighten us just as to, you mentioned health and beauty products as one of your verticals. Has that one been so successful in the last couple of years that accounts for your whole net earnings increase?
That's a really sort of important point, and I'm glad you highlighted that. If you look at Loblaw is not just a food business. Our statements are a composite of several different businesses that includes a food segment, yes, but includes a bank, includes a large regulated pharmacy that has a big front shop, and the largest beauty retailer in Canada. And as we spoke about in our Q3 disclosures, and we spoke about on the earnings call, that we've had a tailwind in terms of both beauty and our cough and cold OTC business in that particular quarter.
Thanks. And I know you've produced quite a sizable corporate social responsibility report, which I read. It's from 2020, and it's quite impressive. And I know you pride yourself on being a good corporate citizen. And so my question is, if in this context that we're in, if you're able to drive profits in some of your verticals in your business, couldn't you afford then to distribute some of those to hand down cost savings to the average Canadian citizen who are your patrons at your stores every day?
That's our job, to offer the best possible value to our customers. We're in the customer business and we're in a very competitive sector, and our principal motive is to have the best possible prices in our stores at all times. And our value spectrum is quite broad. We are offering a record number of loyalty points this year, which is going to top over $1 billion. We continue to offer ad match in our discount stores, which is if you can find a better promoted price, we'll match it in the store. We have a strong control brand assortment, and we double down on it by freezing the no-name prices. And as far as I know, that scale of program is unprecedented, with freezing over 1,500 prices. And then we continue to have a very strong weekly flyer to make sure we have the best promotions week on week. So that is part and parcel every day to win the customer.
Yes, thank you for that. I also note that based on publicly available information that you've also raised shareholder quarterly dividend payments by 11%. So this, leads me to sort of say, okay, you're as a large corporation in Canada, you're generating significant profits and you're increasing dividend payments for your shareholders, which is fine. Again, I'm sort of interested in how do we make life easier for the average Canadian family who's struggling to purchase their basket of goods at the grocery store. So is there anything else? I know priding yourself on being a good corporate citizen, that you can do. I know and I'm not here to paint corporations as monsters or anything. Like, I'm really taking at face value the things you're saying, and I'm just interested on how Loblaws, in a time of crisis that the country's gone through, can be really helping Canadians pay for their groceries. So is there anything else that Loblaws is prepared to do other than freezing the no-name brand prices, which is a good step, but I think that the prices might have been frozen at a fairly high rate, as far as I can tell, just given the time.
No, I welcome this committee's investigation into this matter. Inflation is a complicated question, and there's no one player in the global value chain that can influence it. So I think looking at all aspects of it is important. For grocers and Loblaw in particular, there's two things that we do are absolutely critical to keeping inflation down. The number one thing, which I spoke to in my remarks, is us acting as the countermeasure and making sure that we don't accept unjustified cost increases from the supplier base. That is number one thing that we can do. 96 cents of what is in the grocery basket is grocer costs. So that is the one thing we need to focus on and keep on doing. And the second, and this is because the industry is so competitive, we need to be offering the best value at all times in our stores. And I spoke to the measures that we're doing, and that we're going to continue to do that.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you, gentlemen. Maintenant, Monsieur Perron pour 6 minutes.
And now, Mr. Perron, you have up to 6 minutes, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the witnesses for being with us here today. Obviously, we're looking for information, and this isn't a trial process, of course, but we do have a number of questions to put, which are based on the presentation of the financial statements. Mr. Hussain, you're telling us that the net earnings on groceries is no higher. You're not making any more profit than you did in the past, not a higher margin.
Margin is flat since inflation took off.
Okay, à ce moment-là,
all right. Then how do you explain the much higher profits?
Our net income in Q3, the rate of net income was 3.8%. As I mentioned previously, that is not unusual for our business. And that net income is not just a function of food, it's a function of several other businesses that fall under the Loblaw umbrella.
OK, puis ces chiffres-là, vous êtes en mesure de...
Okay, so can you provide us with these figures, with a breakdown in all details? Because looking at the documents, it's just not obvious where that information is to us. This is what Ms. Rood asked you for, I believe, as well.
We provide our full financial statements are our total business, and then we provide qualitative disclosure in terms of what our individual segments are doing. It's, I believe, on page 11 or 12 on our financial statement, depending on the version that you're looking at. And that's where we give qualitative disclosure. We don't give quantitative disclosure, but qualitative disclosure around what is happening to our food margins and our drug margins. And our food margins in that, we've stated that publicly in that document and on our earnings call have been flat. But I will, as I've taken a note of what the honorable colleague asked me, and I'll pass it on.
Madame Roux, tantôt, ça serait apprécié.
Very well, then we much appreciate it if you would provide that information to the committee so that we can really see the information in depth. Let me continue with you, Mr. Hussein. You have mentioned a number of factors influencing inflation. We also know that there are costs, Mr. Charlebois mentioned them in his opening statement, that are charged to suppliers, it would seem, to fund long-term investments. If I compare, for example, according to testimony we have already heard here in the committee, costs or fees for processors, well, that's about 18% of costs in the United States, but 28% in Canada. So could you explain why it's more expensive here in Canada?
I don't know the specifics of that differential or what the base of that report is that's citing the difference in costs. In terms of costs, what we charge is contractual, in that that's an agreement that we arrive at with our suppliers in advance of their products being listed with us, and is customary in terms of how we're operating. And we have a fairly equitable process to evaluate that what our relationship with the supplier is balanced. And I gave an example of that in terms of how we gauge cost increases, because that's a fundamental interaction that we have with the supplier. We have processes in place to make sure that relationship remains balanced, because they're a key partner in our business.
Merci. Si les augmentations de...
Thank you. So if the higher food costs at the grocery shelf are directly linked to higher costs from your supplier, how is it that costs have risen much higher in grocery stores than in restaurants? Because I imagine that restaurants as well buy from suppliers. So 13.9% between October 2019 and 21, and 19.1% in grocery stores over that same period.
The restaurant sector and the grocery food sector are sort of fundamentally a bit different in terms of the value chain that each offers. Particularly in terms of how much of a grocery bill is actually food versus value-add service that goes on top of it, whether it's labor, service, and so forth. The margin structure is different. So I don't think it's an appropriate comparison to sort of like draw a one-for-one between restaurant performance and grocery performance. I would note, though, however, that if you think about Canada versus every other G7 country, we're doing quite well. And compared to our nearest neighbor, I think there hasn't been a quarter since Q2 of 2020 where Canadian food price inflation has been higher than the US.
Question rapide.
One last quick question, 15 seconds left. Okay, freezing no-name brands is good, but this was carried out when in the House of Commons we had decided to carry out this study. Is there any link between that decision in the House of Commons and your decision to freeze no-name brands?
We're always looking to offer value to our customers. In advance of even the no-name price freeze, we had gone out to give a record number of loyalty plans, which are going to top $1 billion. So no, we're giving value all the time.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussein and Mr. Parent. And now Mr. McGregor, 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today. Mr. Hussein, I'd like to start with you. When I put together my witness list for this study, I specifically requested for Mr. Galen Weston to appear. Is there any reason why Mr. Weston's not here after receiving an invitation from a committee of the House of Commons and you're here in his stead?
I run retail finance at Loblaw. Prior to that, I ran the planning group at Loblaw. And I also have had a stint at running the commodities group, which evaluates inflationary cost requests from our suppliers. In our company, I'm the best suited to speak to matters at hand as it relates to inflation and how that impacts both our financial statements and our operations.
So that it was that Mr. Weston could have appeared, but he decided to send you in his stead?
The company sent me because I'm the closest to these matters and able to respond to the committee with a high degree of specificity.
We'll just leave it at that. We have a report that came out recently from the Center for Future Work, noticing that, profits in the food retail sector as a whole grew by 120% from 2019 through this latest period, swelling by $2.8 billion. I did take note of your opening statement of the pressures that you are going through. We've had many witnesses before this committee reflect on the same costs. And despite all of those pressures, we have taken note of the fact that those profits have gone up. I guess what I don't want to repeat some of the questions that my fellow colleagues around the table have asked, so maybe I'll turn it to the pay that workers in your industry receive. The price of groceries went up by, over 10% in 1 year. That's twice as fast as workers' wages at 5.4%. And I also note that your industry during the middle of the pandemic canceled the hero pay, which was very necessary for a lot of workers to get through that very tough time. So, when you look at the profits, the fact that your industry canceled the hero pay, what kind of a message is that sending to people about the value that your employees provide in your industry if their wages are not rising as fast as the very groceries they need to pay for?
Our colleagues and our employees are the lifeblood of Loblaw. Grocery in general is a very labor-intensive industry, and your experience as a customer is only as good as your experience in the store. Colleagues are fundamental. We are predominantly, in our grocery stores in particular, a unionized shop. And we proudly participate in the collective bargaining process. Our unions advocate quite well for the employee population, and any deals, and most deals, in fact, the ones that we've consummated over the last year, have been with union approval.
You announced the price freeze on some of the products, coincidentally on the same day that the House was going to come to a vote on a motion, unanimously I might add, so it was supported by all parties. Your competitor, Metro, they were quick to point out that it's already an industry standard to freeze prices at that time of year. I guess my question to you is, how did the industry collectively decide on this standard? What kind of discussions do you have with your competitors on this if Metro is already identifying that it's a standard? Because it seemed to me that your company announced it as something out of the generosity of its heart to address the tough times. What do you have in response to Metro's statement?
My understanding is Metro subsequently clarified those comments, and I know they're appearing before the committee, so you should ask them. It is not a practice. Grocery prices do not freeze between October and January. And I'll give you a very simple data point. I don't think inflation has ever paused from October to December. In fact, you can see the CPI prints going many, many years back, and prices do not pause during this time. In fact, I would invite Dr. Charlebois here. He's a learned scholar. He can give perspective on it, but it is not an industry practice to freeze prices at this time.
Okay, and the other question I had, we know of the allegations of the price fixing on bread, very serious allegations. I know that the Competition Bureau has also expressed concern over the practice of margin shielding. We have very, very, very big concerns on the other side of the spectrum of people who are very concerned with grocery code of conduct, the business practices that you have with manufacturers. Do you believe, Mr. Hussein, with all of these allegations, that your industry in particular has a lot more work to do to earn the trust of Canadians who are quite rightly concerned with what's going on right now?
We earn the trust of Canadians through what we do at the checkout counter, and that will be 100% what we continue to do.
We've got, 10 seconds. I know you'll be generous, Mr. McGregor, and give that back to us. Mr. Chambers, you are appearing on behalf of Mr. Steinle. Welcome to the committee. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all our witnesses. A pleasure to see you back here in front of committee. Mr. Hussein, you've mentioned a couple times since the food inflation has started, I think what you're referring to is your net margin has stayed similar. What about over, say, the last 10 years? Is that still 4 cents in and around where the industry has been over, say, the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I can certainly say for ourselves, going back 10 years might not be a comparable example for us because we didn't have the Shoppers business in there. But yes, in aggregate, I think our net margins have sort of been in the range that have been sub 4. And I would welcome actually Mr. Carl Littrell to give comment on the overall sector, but I think that holds true for the sector too.
Mr. Lillard?
Yes. So as I understand it, looking 5 years, Loblaw's numbers were 3.4%. And as I look at the others, they're all in a range of between 2 and 4%. That's a picture across the industry on a 5-year basis.
Thank you. So it's been relatively consistent during that time.
Yes.
Mr. Hussein, the CEO of Pepsi went on, I believe it was an American news channel, business news channel, and said, "We are so happy we can charge," I'm paraphrasing slightly, but we are very happy because we can charge whatever we want and the customer will pay. Can you talk a little bit more about the negotiations you have with some of these larger food suppliers and how those costs kind of impact the supply chain?
And that's actually an excellent consideration. One, I think I would just say is, that sort of highlights that that's a supply chain cost issue, not a grocery profit issue or a grocery margin issue. The second is that in specific terms, I don't know why the Pepsi CEO would say what they did about the elasticity of price in their particular market. But I encourage the committee to look at all aspects of the value chain, particularly the upstream value chain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Lehoux.
Merci, Mr. Chambers. Alors, bonjour.
Very well. Hello. Thank you to the witnesses for being here. Mr. Charlebois, I've got a question at the very outset for you. Much is being said about trust and transparency, but perhaps we've been dragging our feet here. A study might have been asked by the government about the impact of the carbon tax overall, and perhaps we should have done that earlier. Should we do it now? I think that we do need to better understand what's going on right now, because we had 2 provinces applying a carbon tax, BC and Quebec, but now everyone across the Confederation must fall in with this, so now's the right time. So you don't think it's too late? It's just the right time to do it? Yes. Another question, because you've carried out a good deal of research and study on these matters, Mr. Charlebois, so far. And is all this after you're asked to carry out research by food retailers, suppliers, or just your laboratory that just decides to go in and do a study? We decide to cover certain topics. We have 4 important partners, 4 large partners. We do examine certain issues based on what we're capable of doing as well. However, our studies are not funded by partners such as Loblaws. Perhaps I didn't get this earlier, but did you mention your 4 partners earlier? Bettercart, Mresson IQ, Angus Reid, and Cattle. Thank you. as a percentage, across the many studies you've carried out, what percentage goes for production to processors, let's say, when it comes to the final product on the shelf? Do you have any idea overall? Oh my, very difficult to say, given that each SKU, each product has its own history and its proportion of processor and supplier costs. Very difficult to give you an average. But I can say that overall, the retail margins are very low. Mr. de Littler and Mr. Hussein have said that, and they're right, as very low margins. But the overall structure is different in Canada. With the oligopoly we have here in Canada, suppliers have a good deal of trouble negotiating with Loblaws, Empire, and the large retailers. Thank you, Ms. Gentleman. Now we will hear from Ms. Valdez, and I think she intends to share her time with Ms. Taylor-Roy.
And thank you to the witnesses for joining our committee. I'll direct my first questions to Mr. Littler. It's regarding price freezes and what Canada can take away from other countries and what they're doing to lower costs in supermarkets.
Mr. Littler, you're on.
My apologies, I was on mute. So it's a composite picture as to what merchants are doing to address consumer prices. I think it's important to understand that even before the price freezes, that there's a very significant sort of discount grocery piece in the Canadian market, and obviously we've seen a consumer shift to that business. There's been sort of a strong effort to try and ensure that staples in particular are sourced in a way that makes them as low priced as possible for consumers. With respect to the freezes, people have taken different approaches. Obviously, the decision that Loblaw made has probably received the most comment, but other grocers have gone down that path. But I think it's important to understand that they're working with some pretty thin margins as far as what they can actually do. And so even, it's not going to be a situation where all of this is within the capacity of grocers. I think it's important also to look at what manufacturers can do. So we were talking a few minutes ago about average margins over 5 years being 2, 3, 4% in grocery. If you look at the Kraft margin, that's 14.8% over the same period. Pepsi is 11.6%. Procter & Gamble's 18.2%. So while grocers are doing what they can, I think it's really important also to look at what can be done with respect to the processing side of the chain.
Thank you. Mr. Hussein, you were talking about profit margins earlier. Can you clarify how Loblaws accounts for net earnings? Or in other words, how has Loblaws made more money on the health, beauty, and pharmaceuticals?
The net earnings definition, I think one of your honorable colleagues earlier gave a definition that was very close to the net income definition that I cited, that I'm using, that's used in our financial statements. That's our net income margin is 3.8%. So that would be in line with generally accepted accounting principles. That's generally the foundational basis of our financial statements. And then that number is inclusive of all of our businesses, including beauty and the bank. And our food businesses. Among other businesses that we have a wholesale business, a small liquor store business, and so forth.
Thank you. And just one more question to Mr. Littler. Going back to the prices of groceries and large profits, are you able to comment on the role that pharmacies play in the pricing increase as a whole?
Well, pharmacies, of course, are a mixed business because you've got pharmaceuticals that the products that are sold as by prescription and over the counter, but you've got a lot of front of store, and that's increasingly it's an increasingly important part of a number of grocers' businesses. And then the other thing is, of course, in the wake of the pandemic, you had a lot more travel. You have people going out to work again. You have people getting cough and colds and so on. So what's happened is that the consumption of that has gone up. I guess the other point is that those tend to be higher margin items. There's a fierce competition around food products and particularly around food staples. There's a little more room for margin with respect to that health and beauty side. And so that's why it's been a really major driver while the food margins have remained flat.
Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Taylor-Roy.
Thank you very much, and to all the witnesses for being here. And my question is really following up on Mr. McGregor's, and this is questions for you, Mr. Hussein. I had a colleague who was visiting over the weekend who works for your independent grocer, which is unionized, as you mentioned, but most employees make between $16 and $18 an hour. She makes slightly more because she manages a large part of the store. But she was telling me that her store manager was not going to receive a bonus this year because he hadn't cut back on wages as much as the corporate had wanted them to, and they had certain targets about reducing wages in the operations. And since you're in the financial area, I thought I'd ask you, why is this a target right now, given that your profits have been going up and that obviously workers are suffering from high inflation in many areas, not just food?
25 seconds, Mr. Hussein.
I don't think that's an accurate characterization. I don't think our bonus plan for store managers actually works like that. That where actual labor dollars or constriction of labor dollars impacts a particular store impacts someone's bonus. I don't know, by the way, all our compensation plans, but I don't think that's an accurate characterization of how that actually works.
I think we're almost out of time, so perhaps you could send that to us.
Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Yeah,
Ms.
so perhaps you could send us that information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maintenant, Monsieur Perron, 2 minutes.
And now, Mr. Perron, you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Charlebois, you were discussing the carbon tax a little earlier, and we were recently voted an exemption on the carbon tax for some sectors that do need that. Right now, the carbon tax, of course, is aiming to ensure that in the long term, food costs less because we won't be facing as much climate change. But Canada is the only country of the G7 to impose a carbon tax. And do you think that's useful? Very good question. I've already spoken to this issue. I don't think it's a good thing to do. Speaking for myself, I understand the geopolitical reasons behind the decision, but penalizing producers in this way could compromise our food security, not solely here within Canada, but for the rest of the world, given that we produce a good deal of grain products for the rest of the world as cereals. I don't think it would be a good idea to change the decision right now, though, because what we need right now is predictability in the market. Right now, producers are planning based on the new carbon tax. Do you think that if these sums were handed right back to the producer, this could help? I don't think that the carbon tax influences inflation. What it does affect is the viability of the farms more than anything else, of agricultural producers, and we might lose some of them. All right, so food security, thank you very much. Mr. Hussein, I'd like to get back to you for the 30 seconds that you'll have to answer once I get through my question. How can you explain that suppliers, agricultural producers, and even processors tell us that their margins are down, but you are able to keep higher net margins, or at least to keep them flat?
What supplier is saying what, I wouldn't be able to speak intelligently to that point. I think it's a complex landscape and different
Okay, malheureusement, c'est temps.
Unfortunately, we've run through the time. Sorry, Mr. Bell. You had 30 seconds, but unfortunately, you used a good deal of it to put the question. So, Mr. McGregor, 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hussein, I'd like to continue just on that last question that was themed on the issue of trust. Not only because of the issues I mentioned, the ongoing investigations that have happened from the Competition Bureau, but just, Canadians' perception of your sector, I think you would agree with me, is not very good right now. They have seen the profit margins. They have seen executive bonuses. They have reflected upon what the dividend payouts are vis-a-vis workers' wages. You're now addressing a committee of parliamentarians that will very seriously consider what Professor Charlebois mentioned, to the fact that the Competition Bureau does not have enough resources. So I think the pressure is on your industry to either be proactive or find parliamentarians will take that reign and be proactive for you. So again, Mr. Hussain, I want to hear from you. What is your company in particular going to do from this point forward proactively to try and restore that trust that has been broken by all of the events I've just mentioned?
We're in the business of acquiring customers. We're in the business of making sure that the experience in our store is the best. We are all the time, proactively looking at how we can give consumers the best possible value in all our stores. And that will be the job that we'll continue to perform, and we'll continue to push back on unjustified cost increases to make sure that the basket that they buy at our stores is the most competitive it can be, because our sector is very competitive. They have plenty of options to get that basket elsewhere. So it's our job to make sure that we serve them as best as we can, week in, week out.
I heard specifics there, but for the last 30 seconds, Professor Charlebois, we do know there were some legislative changes implemented on the Competition Act recently. You've talked about resources. In a report that this committee issues with its recommendations, just very quickly, what kind of specifics would you like to see specifically on the Competition Bureau? Because I think this is one area we really do need to focus on.
I think it boils down to authority and access to information and data, and how it collects data and how it manages it. Right now, we're flying in the dark, and there's a lot of unfinished business, which is impacting the reputation of the industry. And I actually agree with you. I think there's a bit of a consumer trust crisis going on right now against grocers, and I'm not even sure grocers have the answer, but the Competition Bureau could actually bring some light and protection for consumers.
Thank you, Mr. Charlebois. Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Just a couple quick ones from me. Mr. Hussain, just so I understand, 3.8% is the food sector portion of your business. That's the margin right now for Loblaws?
No, it's not the food sector. It's the aggregate margin for our entire business, because Loblaw reports as a composite. And that composite, as I mentioned, includes several other businesses as well.
Do you have a sense of, for this committee, what the actual food margin portion of the business is, or is that not something that can be made public at this time?
No, it's something that we don't disclose. It's not publicly disclosed information. We do give qualitative disclosure of it, which I was mentioning, which is on pages 11 through 13, depending on our statements. And that's where we state that our margins on food gross margins have been flat.
The last question I have is around the relationship. We talked about perhaps increased traffic at the pharmacies because of the pandemic. I didn't hear questions in the panel around increased actual just amount of food that was being bought through the grocery element itself, in the sense that people were not going out to restaurants as often, they were not eating out. Do you have any numbers that you can provide this committee in terms of, I'll say, per units? Have you seen an increase beyond, of course, the cost that you've had to incur, but just the amount of food that's being bought through your retail outlets? Do you have a percentage number that you could give this committee?
Not a percentage number, but I can give you a shape of how the industry has grown. So when the COVID pandemic happened, the volume in the industry, actual unit volume in the industry spiked because restaurants were closed. But this year in particular, as the pandemic has restricted and restaurants have opened up, unit volumes are actually contracting.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Charlebois, if you have similar data across the industry, I think that would be interesting to offer the committee. But I will run afoul of our time if I go any further, unless you have something very quick you might want to add, Mr. Charlebois.
Chair, I have submitted our greedflation reports. We have 3 of those that were submitted, that were published in the last few months. It has been submitted already to the committee.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Ms. Valdez, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the passing of the CCA President Reg Schellenberg, I wanted to see if there was interest to write a joint letter of condolences signed by all of us in committee to his family and to CCA.
Look, I think that's a thoughtful gesture, Ms. Valdez. I don't see any hesitation in the room here from any one of our members. Do I unanimous consent to go ahead and do that? Wonderful. Okay, well, we'll make sure that we do that on behalf of, as chair, on behalf of all of you. Thank you, Ms. Valdez. Colleagues, that ends the first panel. Don't go too far. We're going to turn this around for panel number 2 in just a few moments. Thank you. Thank you to our witnesses. Thank you to our technical team for turning that around very quickly. With us today on the second panel, we have from Empire Company Limited, or better known as Sobeys, in my neck of the woods in Nova Scotia, Mr. Pierre St. Laurent, who's the Chief Operating Officer. Mr. St. Laurent, welcome to the committee. From Food, Health and Consumer Products of Canada, we have Michael Graydon, who serves as the Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Graydon, you're joining us online. Welcome to the committee. Welcome back, I should say. We're no stranger to us. And Fruit and Vegetable Growers of Canada, Rebecca Lee, the Executive Director, also no stranger to this committee. Ms. Lee, you're in the room. Thank you so much for being here today. So, colleagues, we're going to start with 5-minute opening remarks. We're going to start with Mr. St. Laurent. You have up to 5 minutes for your opening remark.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In recent months, inflation around the world has reached heights not seen in decades. We understand that the cost of living, including the cost of food, is a concern for Canadians who want to understand why their grocery bill is so high today. That's why Empire is appearing here in person. First, as a company committed to feeding families, Empire does not like inflation. Inflation, as experienced in the recent months, is bad and worrisome for Canadians who must make choices and adjust their purchasing behavior, have to think about what they can buy so they can stay within their budgets. Inflation is also bad for our business. It disrupts our operations. It forces us to face significant operational challenges. Second, food inflation is a global issue that is due to a combination of macroeconomic factors driving up the cost of food production. Commodity cost pressures due to geopolitical events and extreme weather, soaring energy costs, supply chain disruptions, a weakening Canadian dollar, and labor shortages have all created a perfect storm for our suppliers who are unfortunately forced to increase the cost of their products. While we receive hundreds of requests for cost increases from our suppliers every month, we are committed to rigorously evaluating each of them, reviewing all cost factors affecting suppliers to ensure that each request is factually justified in order to minimize the impact on our customers. Unfortunately, current conditions are such that our suppliers have no choice but to ask retailers for significant cost increases in order to remain profitable. Canadian farmers, in particular, are impacted by the current macroeconomic environment. Many farms would be in serious jeopardy if retailers did not accept their requests for increases. Third, as a business, we do not benefit from inflation. Many believe that retailers deliberately profit from inflation. I can't speak for other retailers, but I can assure you that this is completely untrue in Empire's case. In the vast majority of cases, the increase in retail prices reflect the increased costs demanded by suppliers. As we've said in recent months, and as our quarterly reports indicate, sales and profitability have remained broadly stable despite accelerating inflation. I would also like to point out that food retail is a very low-margin sector. In our case, our net margin for the last 2 quarters was 2.5% and 2.6%. In line with profitability over the last 2 years. So we've no choice but to adjust our retail prices, otherwise Empire would very quickly become unprofitable. Fourth, despite this uncertainty, we are working on all available ways to minimize the impact of this unprecedented inflation on our customers. In addition to rigorously analyzing cost increases requested by our suppliers, we're investing in many initiatives to provide even greater value to Canadians, whether through the development of our private label, our large format products, or through the relevance and customization of what we offer, but also by supporting communities across Canada. Finally, we believe that the Canadian government could also play an important role helping Canadian businesses reduce their operating costs. Indeed, any government measure that simplifies procurement, encourages immigration, and fosters technological innovation will be beneficial to us. For example, the National Supply Chain Task Force recently submitted its report to the Minister of Transportation, identifying 21 initiatives to address supply chain challenges in Canada. Reducing congestion at Canadian ports, streamlining the movement of goods across borders, and addressing labor shortages in the supply chain are examples of concrete measures that would have a major beneficial impact on our sector and ultimately on the purchasing power of Canadians. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate that we are sensitive to this issue that directly affects our customers and working on all available levers to minimize the impact of inflation. Our presence today shows our commitment to this issue and the seriousness with which we are dealing with it. Thank you very much, Mr. St. Laurent. And now, Mr. Graydon, you have 5 minutes.
And members of the committee, FHCP represents the companies that manufacture and distribute the vast majority of everyday essential products found in every household. Our members work closely with Canadian farmers and transform this country's agricultural riches into value-added finished goods that feed families here at home and around the world. As the single largest employer in rural Canada, we serve as a critical link between rural and urban communities. With inflation now at historic highs, we understand the concerns that Canadians share regarding higher food prices. Canada's inflationary environment aligns to skyrocketing costs of food and goods globally. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization, global food prices jumped 5.5% from September 2021 to September 2022. Canada's peer countries face similar trends. Some factors driving global inflation include COVID-induced demand spikes, labor shortages, crop damage from extreme weather, transportation disruptions, and a sharp increase in the price of energy and fertilizer due to the war in Ukraine. Unlike past trends, many of these conditions and pressures have been occurring simultaneously or in a more pronounced manner, leading to broad-based increases in prices. Simply put, the cost of producing, selling, and buying food has risen sharply across the board, and when costs increase, prices generally do as well. This point is reflected by an October 2022 survey of FHCP members reporting input costs have increased on average 23% this year. For example, wheat and oil prices have skyrocketed, and sugar has increased over 12% year over year. Plastic packaging costs rose 42%, and paper packaging costs increased by 36% since January 2020. Price for glass rose 12.3% year over year, and our freight transportation costs are up 32%. Labor costs also rose by almost 16%. In addition, our members are dealing with interest rate increase and the increased cost of debt servicing and foreign exchange challenges, as many of the ingredients used in manufacturing are sourced from outside of Canada. Our members do expect these costs will continue increasing well into 2023. Our industry also faces labor, ingredient, and packaging shortages. 80% of our members report labor shortages in their manufacturing plants. Severe labor shortages also continue to impact the trucking industry, which manufacturers rely on to transport over 70% of their products. Other shortages include ingredients and packaging materials such as pallets and pressure-sensitive labels. These global shortages, with limited to no domestic supply, impact our industry's ability to produce and deliver essential everyday products to Canadians. In response, some FHCP members are temporarily reducing variety and sizes, concentrating on making the most necessary and in-demand products. Most manufacturers are passing on significantly less of their costs to the retailers. And while industry is working to mitigate the impacts on consumers, there are steps that the government can take to help. First, we must build supply chain resilience and bolster our economic capacity. The government must take immediate action to implement the National Supply Chain Task Force's recommendations that impact our industry, including investing in critical transportation infrastructure and supporting the digitization of supply chains. Second, the fall economic statement outlined important steps towards providing a more leveled investment playing field between Canada and the U.S. We are pleased with the commitments such as the Canada Growth Fund, tax credits for clean technologies, and investments in advanced manufacturing. These are important steps to help Canada remain competitive in North America and keep and attract investments here. Third, labor shortage continue to be a challenge for our industry. We are encouraged by the government's plans to increase immigration levels to 500,000 people by 2025 and provide further financial measures to process new immigrants and reduce backlogs. And last, Canada needs a mandatory and enforceable grocery code of conduct with a broad scope capturing all essential everyday products on grocery shelves. Since August 2021, discussions on the development of code are underway by an industry steering committee, which I am pleased to co-chair. The code will ensure that the relationship between suppliers and Canada's grocers is transparent, stable, and fair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Grayton. We'll now turn to Ms. Lee for up to 5 minutes. Over to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Agriculture Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today and to speak on the issue of food inflation. My name is Rebecca Lee, and I am the Executive Director of the Fruit and Vegetable Growers of Canada. Our growers are involved in the production of over 120 different types of crops on over 14,000 farms with farm cash receipts of $5.7 billion in 2020. FVGC recognizes the importance of this issue, and we thank the committee for undertaking this critical study. According to Stats Canada, fresh fruit prices were up 9.6% in March 2022 compared with the same month last year. The latest food price report released last Monday estimates vegetable prices will increase by another 6 to 8% next year. As a result, more than 26% of Canadians have reduced their consumption of fruits and vegetables in the past year due to price increases. Even before the pandemic, close to 80% of Canadians were not eating enough fruits and vegetables as recommended by Canada's Food Guide, resulting in an economic burden calculated then at $4.6 billion. As you endeavour to understand the cause of rising costs, I am here to talk about the situation of many of our growers across the country. Concerned with the rising costs our growers have been dealing with, FVGC recently surveyed our members to get a picture of the situation. This reaffirmed that across Canada, growers are struggling. Overall, our growers report a 40% increase in input costs. Fertilizer leads the way with a 72% increase since 2020. Fuel has gone up 65%, labor has increased by 20%, and shipping by 42%. Our growers are generally unable to recoup their costs through the sale of their products. 77% of respondents have not been able to raise their selling price in line with their increased costs, and 44% are selling at a loss. Meanwhile, many growers are still working to recover costs associated with the pandemic, as well as numerous climate disasters and devastating pests and diseases. They continue to be burdened by costs associated with increasing retailer fees, multiple labor and food safety audits, new requirements to demonstrate sustainability. We fully support a strong integrity regime to ensure that our food is safe and sustainably grown and that our workers are being treated fairly. However, it is the layering and often duplication of these audits that are burdensome to growers. Government is adding to the pressure by introducing carbon disincentives and other environmental goals to meet international agreements without balancing them with adequate and agile funds to support change. As a result, going back to our survey, 73% of our growers have had to delay buying equipment or investing in their operations, including exploring new environmental practices because they simply can't afford to invest. Furthermore, produce growers are very susceptible to production risks, which can be extremely high due to the volatility of prices, high dependence on labor, and the perishability of produce. Quality loss can have a significant impact on the price the producer receives. I'm sure many of you saw the article in CBC last month about one of our growers, Richard Melvin, in Nova Scotia, who reported that 40% of his 36 hectares of cauliflower gets plowed back into the ground each year. Like many growers, they are unable to afford to harvest, box, and transport produce that isn't being purchased, especially for vegetables like cauliflower that can spoil in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, AgriStability and AgriInsurance, the two main tenets of the Business Risk Management Program, do not account for significant product quality variability. And therefore, most of our growers do not fit into either program, leaving a large number of them without an adequate safety net. So on the one hand, we have high prices at the grocer level limiting consumers' access to healthy food, and the other, growers who are unable to cover their costs of production with the prices they obtain from their buyers, and are faced with the decision of whether or not to continue in the struggle to provide domestically produced fruits and vegetables. We cannot continue to take for granted the importance of having a strong domestic supply of healthy and nutritious fruits and vegetables. Canada's fruit and vegetable growers believe in the need for sustainable agriculture, socially, environmentally, and economically. Food production is an essential sector, and fundamentally, it should be considered a public good. Ensuring that risks, costs, and fair earnings are spread throughout the supply chain is critical. A strong grocery sector code of conduct is a step in that direction. Government must look holistically at all policies through a food and agriculture lens to avoid unintended impacts. We also need stronger risk management supports for the horticulture sector. Our sector has proven its resilience time and time again. Given due recognition and adequate supports, we firmly believe our growers will be able to balance the bottom line with the ability to provide the safe and nutritious fruits and vegetables to fill half the plate. Once again, we are grateful that the Agriculture Committee is studying food inflation. We need to act swiftly and with determination to address these challenges to protect not only the economic viability of our fresh produce sector, but also Canada's food security and the long-term health of Canadians. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Right on time, actually. Wonderful. That was great. We're going to turn to questions. Colleagues, we'll only have time for 2 rounds, just so you're aware. I think, Ms. Rood, you're going to lead it off for the Conservatives.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Now, Ms. Lee, you kind of alluded to this, but we're recognizing that our growers are struggling. And not just struggling, I worry that young growers, young farmers are not going to get in the business of fresh fruit and vegetables. And that's something that really contributes to our food sovereignty, our food security, being able to sustain ourselves here in Canada and grow what we need to grow in order for us to feed ourselves. And one of the things I see is producers, and from experience, are being held hostage by big grocery chains. And there are concerns. I know labor costs are up. We have a hard time finding labor, let alone costs are up. Our input costs are up, whether it's fertilizer, it's transportation, it's shipping, especially I hear that from growers. And of course, the carbon tax contributes to the increased costs in the shipping and transportation, especially getting product from field to warehouse and from warehouse to food distribution center. And we've heard Mr. St. Laurent, I have to say thank you for acknowledging and recognizing that without increased prices and paying farmers more, we are not going to actually have profitable farmers, and we're not going to see farmers in the business. So thank you for recognizing that. But in the same token, I've heard yourself and Loblaw say that you negotiate with farmers and with suppliers, and when they ask, you don't always give them what they're asking for. And I see that that's been a problem also for farmers, because they can't keep bearing these costs without getting some increases from the grocery retailers to be able to cover their costs. And so I'm just wondering, Ms. Lee, if you could just expand on how a grocery code of conduct would help our growers. I've been a big advocate for that from the beginning, and it's great to see something coming down the pipe on that. But how would a grocery code of conduct help our farmers get paid fairly for their goods?
Thank you for the question. The grocer code of conduct, once we have it finalized, the intent is that it's going to be able to provide the conditions under which business is conducted. Just to reflect or paraphrase, perhaps, the title of the document that we're preparing, the method we're preparing, and once all of the different parts of the package are worked out, how dispute resolution can be managed, how grocers, how a supply agreement can be negotiated, all of those, hopefully by the end of that, we are able to have a product that will level more of the playing field and enable people to deal in a confident manner.
What would the impact be of the tripling of the carbon tax on fruit and vegetable growers? If you don't have that offhand, that's fine.
No,
but just
I'm pretty sure they won't be very happy about it, but I'd have to get back to you on an answer for that.
That would be great if you could submit that later. What other ways can growers be supported in the short and long term to help them be successful and keep our farmers in the business of growing fresh fruit and vegetables?
So in the short and long term, I would certainly reiterate the need for the recommendations of the supply chain task force be implemented, especially addressing the labor challenges and how we can make sure that we have timely access to labor. The recognized employer program would be one good step in that direction. Certainly the grocery retail code of conduct, but also leveling the playing field of supports between the U.S. and Canada. There's a big difference in the amount of supports that are provided in terms of, for example, the environmental programs that they've got. We did a study, or we analyzed them, and green funds available to Canadian farmers per acre at $2.95 versus the United States farmers per acre, it's over $6. So right there and then it's demonstrated that we have fewer supports. Strengthening our BRM programs, that would also help.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is that, again, growers are taking all the risks while we see the grocery chains reaping all the rewards. And you mentioned that 44% are selling at a loss. And I'm just wondering, what is the impact on the farm? Like, are we in jeopardy of losing farms? And how many would we be in jeopardy of? And what does this do to our food security?
I'd love to know the number of that to make sure that we're just to know what's happening in detail. But I do know of farms already that have decided not to continue. Again, going back to the next gen, they don't have a next gen person to take over. They're not interested under these circumstances. It's just one thing after another that's being burdened on the farmers. And what they could also be doing is switching to products that are not fruit and vegetable, that are less labor intensive, less input intensive. And so we would end up probably importing a lot more of our fruit and vegetables as a result.
Do you think that increasing the carbon tax will hasten this demise as well for farmers?
It could very well do, but I'd have to get back to you on that.
I think we have about 30 seconds left. Is there any actions from the supply chain task force that need to be taken?
Yes. Well, I've mentioned addressing the labor shortages issues and also employee retention, establishing a federal supply chain office to unify relevant federal government activities would be another. Protecting corridors, border crossings, gateways from disruption. We want to make sure that we have free flow of goods. Developing a national transportation supply chain strategy, and engaging the United States and the province and territories to achieve mutual recognition of regulations, policies, and processes.
We'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Mr. Drouin for 6 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to thank our witnesses here before us today. My first question will go to Mr. Saint Laurent from Sobeys. My question is about what your company does, generally speaking, when it's under pressure due to forces that aren't necessarily under your control, but let's say higher costs, higher prices, let's say, of lettuce from California. Not as bad in the summer. You're able to get a proper supply in fruits and vegetables, but not as easy in the winter. I'd like to know what you do just so that Canadians are not as affected by that as they might be. Thank you for putting the question. There are many initiatives underway. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, when the Tundra hothouses in Saint-Félicien started to produce cucumbers in a hothouse and did so year in and year out, 12 months a year, Sobeys undertook to buy the entire production. This sort of thing helps people get the funding, start a business, and build resilience. Right now, we're in partnership for winter strawberries, for another example. We also encourage a lot of vertical agriculture in controlled spaces, in Mexico, for example, to reduce our dependency on other sources. With the pandemic, of course, we worried a good deal about border crossings, so we decided, well, we should protect ourselves for next time. So we are investing and partnering with a number of businesses to develop vertical farming. So looking at the Canadian market, yes, indeed, there are more growers, more companies. There used to be small ones, but now let's look at Trulieve, for example, that has greatly expanded its operations. I don't think they will be replacing Canadian producers, but probably some of the imports from California. But is that sustainable? What we can do is buy the product, guarantee that we will be buying a certain percentage of the product, and that counts a lot. When they get going, they go for investments from various investors. When we guarantee that we will be buying 100% of what they produce, you have no idea how quickly that moves things along for them. So that's the role that we play with many startups.
Sort of like vertical agriculture, and seeing whether your members are getting involved into that and how they're looking at that and whether or not they see that as a potential threat, but mostly for wintertime, obviously, because I know many of your members who are able to who do 12 seasons, but not every member. Is that something that they're looking for? And where would that investment? What would spur that investment for them to get into that? So we're self-sustainable 12 months a year.
I think it's a completely different business.
Yeah.
So it would, yeah. I don't know personally of any farmer that is in the field right now that is thinking of going into vertical farming, because as I understand it, it's completely different. I can see greenhouse businesses making sure that they can perhaps go the year round. There's usually a couple of months in there where lighting and electricity doesn't necessarily make sense from the price point of view, but that might be an easier way for my growers to explore it.
Is that something that they're worried about, though, knowing that lettuce leaves are making their way into vertical agriculture? But I know through research, like they are working on fruits and veggies. Is that something that your membership's worried about, or?
I don't.
Not really. You don't know. Okay.
It hasn't been a concern
so far. Okay. Je vais retourner à monsieur probablement en ligne.
Let me go back to Mr. Graydon online, joining us by video conference, who brought up the proposals of their members. I don't want to put this specifically about any company, but look, there's obviously a trust issue affecting consumers' trust about businesses, supermarkets, and so on. So how can we increase trust that there is no greenflation underway, knowing that in the news, and indeed all consumers have heard about price fixing with bread?
Trust is a very important component, and I think as an industry, this isn't something that is fixed by the manufacturers exclusively or the retailers exclusively. I think this is an opportunity for us to collectively put some energy behind it. And again, I think the Grocery Code of Conduct is a big step forward because it shows the unification of the industry in regards to fair practice, transparency, and fair dealing. And I think it starts to signal to the consumers that the industry is intent in working to try to drive forward very succinctly a change in perception. I think we are challenged a little bit as we speak with the systemic global geopolitical issues that are putting a lot of pressure on our business. But I believe these too shall pass. And I think as we continue to work as an industry to find solutions versus pointing fingers at each other, then I think we will start to see an element of trust start to reintegrate back into our industry.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Drouin. Thank you, Mr. Graydon. Maintenant, Monsieur Parent.
And now, Mr. Parent, up to 6 minutes. Mr. Parent, the floor is yours. You have the floor. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the witnesses, of course, for being with us. We appreciated your support and help. We're looking for information. Let me begin with Mr. Saint-Laurent. Thank you for your clear introduction, clear figures. I just want to make sure I've got one thing right. 2.5 to 2.6% in margin. This is only for grocery goods? Yes, it is. And more than 90% of our activities are in that sector, so this is our net margin. So you're able to give us those figures exactly, right? Yes, that is the figures that we have reported and that are published. Fine. How do you explain then, Mr. Saint-Laurent, that producers, and we heard some of them, telling us about this a little earlier, that they have, lower margins. Some are selling at a loss. Ms. Lee has been telling us this, but yet you're able to keep your margins. So why are our fruit and vegetable producers in such a poor position? Well, then our local products go onto our shelves, and our working model with franchises across the country, these is based on that because they work in their communities and they're part of our country, and our consumers want them. They are requesting local products. Well, not cost-effective business for vegetable growers, I'm not sure. We negotiate access to our shelves with them, and our merchants do so directly, actually, without necessarily our even getting involved in most cases. The large producers do work through us because there are logistics costs that have to be agreed on, but we work together. We come to agreements, and local products, there are never enough of them. There are some seasons when, unfortunately, we would prefer to be putting Canadian products on our shelves, but sometimes we do need, in some seasons, to go to other countries for our products. Unfortunately, that's not our first choice because, of course, our consumers prefer choice products, fresh products from Canada. But we're not forcing anyone to sell at a loss with us. That's not our culture. All right, when you think of the costs that suppliers bear and that retailers impose on suppliers, I put the question to Mr. Hussein earlier. I didn't really get to an answer. Perhaps you can give us some help. I'm thinking of dairy processors, and we were told that the costs for processors of fresh products is 18% in the United States compared to 28% in Canada. Why? Difficult for me to say much about figures comparing us to the United States, given that I don't really know what figures those are about the United States. What I can say is that in Canada, dairy producers, I think that the Canadian Dairy Commission has been hearing all the explanations of higher prices. 3 price hikes were allowed for reasons that I imagine were well justified. And of course, milk is a component of cheese, yogurt, a number of products sold on our shelves. I can tell you only what's happening in Canada. Difficult to compare to the United States. All right. Thank you very much. Do you have any idea why food isn't costing as much more in restaurants as in grocery stores? 13.9 in restaurants, 19.1 in grocery stores. It's not the same situation. 28,000 products in a grocery store, not the same in a restaurant. Each product has its own story and its own path, of course. I can give you 25 different stories about chicken, for example. There are a number of qualities, processing, and so on. Sometimes you think it's the same product, but it isn't at all. What I hear is rather the contrary. As a consumer, I think that my restaurant bills are rising faster than my grocery bills are, but that's just my point of view. Thank you for your answer. Ms. Lee, you have told us about higher costs, considerably higher costs, for example, for fertilizer. 35% on Russian fertilizers, the G7 and so on involved. Does this really impact producers and growers? Yes, it certainly does. Many growers had already put in their requests for fertilizer before the extra rates were applied. Some were able to get their fertilizer in fast enough, but those who hadn't made a request before the sanctions, they had to pay that extra amount. And what I've heard as well, it would have to be checked, but other fertilizer suppliers have brought up their prices in any case by that same 35%. So, of course, this has a considerable effect on growers. Thank you, Ms. Lee and Mr. Marron.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all of our witnesses for appearing today. I'd like to start with you, Mr. St. Laurent. I was looking through Empire's publicly available records. So the last pre-pandemic year, 2019, your company announced net profits of $387.3 million. In 2021, that jumped up to quite significantly to $701.5 million. And this year, it's projected to be $745.8 million. So with all of the pressures of the supply chain, the increased costs, your company has still managed to approximately double its net profits. Now, you did say in your opening statement that your company is working on all available ways to address cost issues. I'm just trying to fit that statement within the context of your net profits going up by this considerable margin. Are you really taking it or trying to use all available ways if your net profits are going up by such a significant way? Is there not a way to redirect those profits to trying to ease some of the pain that so many consumers are feeling right now?
Well, first off, let me just go back a bit. In 2017, our margins were even lower. We were in some difficulty, and we announced a restructuring, a considerable undertaking called Sunrise, and we were public about it, and our business was in difficulty then, yes. That was a 3-year plan, 2017 to 2020, which allowed us to improve our profitability, but we're still under our main competitors. The 2.5, 2.6 is below theirs. So I just wanted that to be clear. As for the inflation period, the last 2 quarters, I think the inflation spike has really been over the last 6 months. So over these last 6 months, our net margin has not risen. So you need to tell the difference between a restructuring program started in 2017 and then the information from the last few months showing that what inflation is looking like for us. We have flat sales, flat margins. Our sales and our margins are both stable. We're not making more off inflation. As for giving more value to the client, when I made that announcement, it was mostly to try, we have about 25,000 products in our store. Let's take a private brand versus a national brand. The private one will cost 10 to 20% more, and our work is to promote it. This is a simple way to mitigate the effect of inflation on a client's budget, and there are other examples of how we can do that, and do that as well.
We noticed that in 2015, the United States has a Congressional Research Service. They've done studies into the relationships on retail prices, and in particular, they've looked at patterns of consumer behavior. They've noticed that consumers, when they're presented with 2 identical products at 2 different retailers, will in theory choose the one that's offered at a lower price. However, the evidence shows that they will continue to purchase products at higher prices from a preferred retailer due to constraints like time savings. It might be convenient. Also, they will accept higher retail prices if the inconvenience associated with traveling to different stores. So what I want to ask you, does your company take advantage of those well-documented consumer behaviors, knowing that when a consumer is in one of your stores, they're more likely to stay there rather than suffer the inconvenience of traveling elsewhere? Has your company ever taken advantage of those patterns of consumer behavior to benefit from higher prices?
Well, the points you're making here are about client preferences. Price is, of course, a very important factor in client choice. But what the research shows is that consumers also find value in other parts of what's going on. Service, for example, in the store. Variety offered, how close the store is to their home. Consumers make their choices based on their preferences. And as we all know, those preferences differ. That's what the study shows. In the past, and for a number of reasons, we are focused on what we call service stores, with people there to pack your groceries and that sort of stuff, such that our salaries are about twice as much as in a rebate store. But people are looking for what labor can provide: variety, choice, service, other types of low-cost stores, and we have some of those where there's less to choose from. The service is of a different order. The prices are lower. It's about positioning your chain, positioning your brand, and your chain. And of course, everyone makes their own choice. Thank you very much, Mr. St. Laurent and Mr. McGregor. Now we will go to Mr. Liu, but 4 minutes only, because unfortunately we have very little time. Difficult to get us all in. Thank you to you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being with us. My first question is for you, Mr. St. Laurent. So this idea of a grocery code of conduct, do you support that? Yes, not only that, but we were the first to recommend it a couple of years ago. We sat down with our suppliers and I've got another question. Yes, please. Should it be mandatory? Yes, of course, of course. If we go for a grocery code of conduct, then everyone has to apply it, including American companies who sell things in Canada. Thank you for having been one of the people requesting it. Yes, and that was based on a code of conduct that already exists in Great Britain, in the United Kingdom. Yes, very good. And I imagine we should get it going as quickly as possible, and I'm glad to hear you support it. You brought up, and I think most, in fact, all of our witnesses have been speaking to this factor, labor. Could you tell us a bit more about labor as an issue, as a factor? It seems to come up very often, the problems we're having getting labor, especially newcomers who could be brought into Canada to help get us over this hump. Everything that we can do regarding labor will be advantageous to all of us across the value chain. In some provinces, we're really looking for labor. Something else I want to bring up. Yes, immigration could solve some of this, and we certainly encourage people to support immigration, but we should also work on productivity. Growers, processors, and so on, so that we won't need as much labor. Because with the aging population, this will be a problem right around the corner, and it's going to be a lasting one. All right, I understand that the government then should help a bit more for research to robotize and use technology and so on. Yes, so to overall support that. So, Ms. Lee, on labor. Of course, in the Agriculture Committee, we often ask to meet the Minister of Immigration to try to cut through the Gordian knot that we're still facing, the extraordinary backlog at IRCC. And what do you think of labor availability?
Items that we can work on in the labor area. As I mentioned before, the recognized employer program would be a very quick win and step forward. Generally making it easier for employers to bring in workers, but then also once we have them here to lessen the burden of the audits. That would be a significant step. There's multiple audits, different layering of it, and often on employers that are not the problem. If they were to free that up, they could put more people on to bringing in the workers that we need.
Merci beaucoup de ce témoignage, Madame Lee.
Thank you very much for this testimony, Ms. Lee. This is really important because we repeat it insistently. And, Mr. Chair, this might be a good way to get the Minister of Immigration to come and speak to us as well. And I certainly hope we'll be heard this time we ask. And perhaps, Mr. Graydon, you could tell us about labour?
Pandemic issue in manufacturing. There are over 40,000 vacant positions within food and consumer goods manufacturing in Canada, and that number's growing, unfortunately, and it's impacting our capacity for output. It is very difficult in regards to attracting people to the industry, and I think through immigration, where it is focused on economic immigration towards the manufacturing sector, a portion of the people coming in, I think would be very, very helpful.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graydon, and to Mr. Liu as well. I'm really sorry about my vocabulary. But you know, it's time is not thin, but it's certainly a little of it.
Mr. Lewis, over to you for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the witnesses. Appreciate your time and your testimony and this important conversation because what we're talking about is food, and this is a fundamental need. Households have less flexibility to reduce their spending in this area compared to others. So I begin my questioning with Empire Company. Mr. St. Laurent, appreciate your time being here. And just for our listeners, Empire owns the supermarkets, convenience stores, drugstores, including Sobeys, IGA, Safeway, Farm Boy, Foodland, Freshco. And just to go back and do some history, in 2014, Competition Bureau began an investigation into one of your competitors that Loblaw had abused a dominant position within the grocery sector by adopting unfair business practices with suppliers. Back in 2017, Competition Bureau executed a search warrant to investigate charges that 5 Canadian grocery chains, including yours, had conspired with 2 bread producers to fix prices on bread sold in stores between 2001 and 15. And in 2020, the House of Commons and Standing Committee on Industry and Technology had meetings to investigate allegations that the larger grocers had coordinated to end bonus payments for our frontline staff who worked in the stores in those first few months of the pandemic. And now we hear the Competition Bureau looking to announce to further investigate. So given this history, this track record, in conjunction with the fact that Canada's 3 biggest grocery chains have all posted these profit increases much higher than the rates of the wages of workers. One can see why that perception exists among Canadians that these conversations that we're having are necessary. Yet, Mr. Michael Medline, the CEO of Sobeys, owner at Empire, he said that public criticisms of grocer profits were, quote, reckless and incendiary attacks, close quote. So do you support that opinion? And what measures do you think are necessary to show this change in perception, showing Canadians more transparency from your company and the grocery industry in whole?
Je vais essayer de répondre à toutes vos questions.
I'll try to answer all those questions. The first about setting the price of bread. Empire never did so. Let's be clear on that. We opened our books and inquiry was carried out, to my knowledge. The price was never set. Competition in the retail sector, the competition is ferocious. That's the second point. Also, we mentioned transparency, I believe, our initiatives in support of a future code of conduct that could do a lot to improve transparency. It's not only to ensure transparency, it's also in order to help everyone involved in the production chain, in the value chain. Canada's a very big country, you see, with a distributed population. More so than other countries. It's really important to create predictability. I think Mr. Charlebois brought that up earlier, and he was quite right to do so. Having a code that would help set practices, this will help growers and producers to work out their budgets, to have more resilience in their value chain in future, fewer bad surprises.
gross margins and talk about the numbers being within the scope of other industries. Some sectors in your company have higher margins, the non-food sectors. When I tell people that and explain it, they say, literally, the quote was, "Oh, come on." You have the ability to address that lack of trust. Would it be in your best interest to separate the margins and reporting profits from different sectors so Canadians can see the price fluctuation of food?
En 30 secondes, s'il vous plaît.
30 seconds only.
Pour nos activités sont dans l'alimentation.
Well, to begin with, we work in food and our margins are 2.5%. So I'm not sure if 2.5% is exaggerated given the amount that we sell. We have very little margin of error. We pay 130,000 employees. We invest millions to build our infrastructures, and we cover a very large landmass, Canada. So 2.5%, that's no exaggeration. Thank you very much, Mr. Laurent and Mr. Louis. Mr. Parent, now you have 2 minutes, 2 minutes only, I'm afraid. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, thanks again, all of you. I really appreciate how clear you are in your questions, and I'm going to put you a simple question. What's the first thing the government should do to help control the price of foodstuffs in your sector? Oh, a lot to say. The cost of basic staple foods is very high. Labor is costly and is rare. This puts a good deal of pressure across the value chain from growers, producers, processors to retail sellers. I think that with a large country such as ours, the cost of energy as well to bring so many foodstuffs to so many small communities across such a large landmass, because that's what we do. You know, we don't just work in large cities where it doesn't cost too much to bring the stuff in and put it on the shelves. So I think supporting all that is what I would do. Ms. Lee, the same question. What should we do? What's most urgent?
Back to the recommendations out of the supply chain task force, they're very valid and addressing particularly labor shortages, and making sure that there is adequate transportation, and also the looking carefully at what is causing the increase in costs of the inputs. I think more in-depth study of what's happening there exactly. Should also be a priority of the government.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. You have 15 seconds left, so perhaps stop for my sake.
2 minutes, s'il vous plaît, parce que...
Mr. McGregor, 2 minutes only.
Ms. Lee, I just want to raise a question with you. In Australia, I have in-laws in Australia. It's dominated by two big companies, Woolworths and Coles. And the farmers there right now are in a total uproar right now because they are accusing those two companies of, massively inflating the costs of fruit and vegetables while they themselves are not getting. Can you just quickly, have you been shocked at times when you've seen what the wholesale price that farmers sell for compared to the very same product that you see in consumer shelves? Like the grocery store shelves?
Shocked might be the word. Certainly curious to understand where, along the chain, what happens exactly from once the producer has supplied his product or her product. And then I would really like to know what happens throughout. I don't know where the problem is. I can't guess, but it would really help, and also going back to public trust, to know what happens, piece by piece throughout the supply chain.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, in my final minute, I just actually want to raise a point of order right now. So you, in the first panel, I asked Loblaw why Mr. Weston had not appeared as a witness. In our witness list, we specifically named Galen Weston Jr., we named Michael Medline, and we named Eric Laflèche, the heads of all of those individual companies. We have since gotten correspondence saying that the invitation that was sent out to Loblaw as a company, and I just want some clarification from you, Chair. was the invitation sent out to Loblaw as a company, or was it respecting our request for an individual person? Because I need clarity on this, because if it in fact went to the company, I would like to know if this company or this committee is going to now submit an invitation to Mr. Weston personally, as was requested as my top witness list.
So my understanding, Mr. McGregor, of course, those invitations would have been sent to the corporate entity themselves, asking for the individuals in question to be invited. Madam Clerk, you might be able to clarify that, but that is my understanding. Of course, it's the purview of this committee, if you're not satisfied, Mr. McGregor, to indeed extend another invite if you would so wish it.
So can I add to that?
But if I could, Mr. McGregor, I'd like my clerk to clarify so that we can be clear for the record. The clerk's just going to pull up the invitation so we can see exactly.
So the invitation would have been sent out to the emails provided, but it was not sent. It would have been sent out to the corporate entity, like the chair stated, to the emails provided by each witness, by each MP that provided the witness list.
Okay, because I think a copy was sent to us from Loblaw, and it does say that the House of Commons would like to invite Loblaws to appear. So, Mr. Chair, I requested a specific named individual, and I would like this committee to honor that specific named individual. So I would like to request that the invitation go to Mr. Weston specifically, please.
Okay. I think that can certainly be accomplished.
Thank you.
Is there anything further, just Mr. McGregor, so just Mr. Weston that you're asking for?
Specifically name Mr. Michael Medline as well for Empire, and Mr. Eric R. Laflèche. That would be for Metro, I believe.
Okay, so I will work with the clerk on that. Of course, each party has delegated certain witnesses, so that would reflect who has appeared here today, but I can certainly work to make sure that for the spaces that the NDP and yourself are allotted, that those invitations can be sent accordingly, and that will depend on how long the study goes. Indeed, we are going to be scheduled to be coming back on December 12th, and then ultimately it's the purview of this committee to decide how long this particular inquiry will continue. Okay? Okay. Colleagues, that is time. I would like to thank our witnesses who appeared here today, Mr. Graydon, Mr. St. Laurent, and Ms. Lee. We'll let you guys enjoy. We will have Minister Bibeau before our committee tomorrow, Wednesday on December 7th, for estimates. Thank you.